Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. Be sure to get in the chat room and gas those geese with us. Everybody like the video. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim on his phone here and Dustin on the dulcimer. And we are coming to you live here from Carter County, Tennessee. It is Sunday, not April, it's May the 14th, 2023. It's Mother's Day. So happy Mothers to all you mothers and all you mother lovers out there. So glad to have you with us tonight. Please be sure to follow us on Rumble and hit us up at the Iron Mountain Hour at gmail.com. If you have any ideas for the show, comment on the video too. Comment in the chat. Let us know what you think about what's going on. And tonight we got a special episode. We're going to kind of, I was picking up Mother's Day gifts, and I decided that it would be appropriate to treat myself to a Mother's Day gift. I got myself the Alien film collection. Okay. Would that not be the appropriate for a man to receive the Alien film collection for Mother's Day? Considering the xenomorphs or the facehuggers impregnate the males in the first film,
and also Ellen Ripley, and it's like a whole thing. And if you go with Alien 3, or if you go with like how they did with Alien, and even though, albeit not the worst film since then, but Alien Resurrection, how basically Ripley ended up being basically quasi the queen since they cloned her to get the xenomorph DNA.
Gosh, I can't get my camera to focus on me there. It's wanting to focus good on Tim, and I'm all blurry. It can usually do all of it.
He knows where the money is.
There we go.
Keep moving, it'll have to focus on something else.
See, now we got us all. Now Dustin's a little blurry.
It's like the bent, like Elaine off of Seinfeld.
I'm a crib.
No, I referenced that one. What we started doing is like leaving Seinfeld just playing on our TV because it keeps the dogs quiet. And now it's like what is that, osmosis or
constant
something?
Quips are working their way into your reality.
Absorbed all of them in. Like I'm gonna have the whole season memorized just in the wrong order.
Howdy, Spill. She's saying hello to everybody, and there's Alvin and Joe in the chat. He says we're all three blurry. Well, on our end, it's probably YouTube because our end on our monitor, yeah, we're good. It's that time of the night. Everybody's streaming, so I guess I was trying to avoid streamers that I actually like to watch by doing it at 10 o'clock because a lot of guys I like do California 7 and 8 o'clock.
Yeah. So 10 over here.
So I wanted to make it accessible for kind of everybody, and most of our audience, when we did the original show before we started doing it live, most of our audience watched us between 10 and 12 at midnight, and then later in the day. If the people who actually watched it at night were 10 and 12. Most common was people watching it, during the daytime. But people can still watch it at any time now, so that still stays the same.
We should do a daytime show.
Yeah. We
should do a 2 p.m. show. And everybody be at work. That would be the work. Nobody would be at lunch. It would be the most invisible show ever.
Yeah, it would. There's people out there doing it, though. I'm getting notifications from streamers all damn day on Rumble because apparently you cannot, have notification preferences. Either you're subscribed to somebody or you're not. And so it's kind of a pain in the ass when you got...
Are they going live or they just uploading?
It's when they go live. That's why I get notifications for them, because you got the notification set when they go live. But if it's streamers, and they go live every day, it's kind of a nightmare. But
the reason all three of us are blurry is I saw the thing. It's like we're cryptids.
Oh,
so that's why we're blurry. So that fits the Iron Mountain Hour.
Yeah, we actually just came right out of... Look at this. What kind of nonsense is this? You can't even see our poster here. I didn't fix the camera. That's probably why it was so blurry. I didn't even fix the camera before we started. So my bad. But welcome everybody. We're going to get into those alien films. We're also going to look at the idea of the era of the sacred feminine and the age of Pisces going into the age of Aquarius and what that might mean for humanity and what these elite theosophists might think it may mean for humanity. So we'll get into a little bit of that tonight, and it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. But Dustin was bringing us in there with that was Dustin playing bass on the song that we brought us in. That was Macrocosmic Regeneration with his band Deceit of Deceit, and I believe he does some vocals on that track too. And so he was bringing us in. Now he's got his, it's a Appalachian dulcimer that Tim brought in for us today. There we go.
Not in the correct tuning, but I thought it was a gothic tuning.
Yeah.
Yeah, the camera's all mixed up, guys. I'm sorry.
It's supposed to be played on a tabletop or something, but if I did it there, you can't see it.
You wouldn't be able to see it.
It's supposed to be like this, I'm pretty sure. Because I've seen, where they wear it around the thing, and then they play it like this.
Yeah, on their knees.
But say you can't do that. You just looks like you're just fiddling with yourself and the music's happening.
Yeah, which
play it like
that's usually what happens when
with
Tim fiddles with himself.
yeah.
A lot of music happens.
I've seen these with the using kind of like
I've seen it.
to play with it too. I've seen it. I've seen them.
And with brushes and little rubber thingies.
Well, I've seen the hammer dulcimer too.
Yeah.
Rich Mullins, the Christian singer, used to play one of those.
But, and even now I'm halfway cut off over here.
I'm gonna have to fix this because it's driving me crazy. I've got to get our camera angle fixed right there. Sorry about that, folks.
Oh, goodness.
Was doing some work in the studio. And
Up to see the dulcimer's headstock.
now I'm crooked.
Now, yeah, I was like, now it's crooked.
Crooked. I'm
Now it's
crooked.
the ceiling. It's like, now we see the ceiling. Okay.
How we doing there?
On this episode of Tim and Golf Talk About Porn, we'll review the 1988 classic. There's an episode of King of the Hill where Hank has to learn all the porn movies to
that's hilarious.
prove that he doesn't watch porn.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. And the judge ends up says, and let the record
Record
state
show.
that Mr. Hank Hill really knows his pornography. Yeah, that's a good one. Hank, if you remember, there's one where he's studying his porn, right? And he's sitting in the living room. And,
He has a pen.
and he's tapping his pen, and Peggy looks in the door and sees him from behind, just sees his arm going up and down while he's tapping the pen. Oh my God, Bobby! What you say, like, go to the neighbors or something?
It all comes down to a tattoo being on some girl's butt.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you haven't watched King of the Hill and you want to learn more about that episode, go watch it. You'll love it.
Same episode that features the Beast system.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
The Beast.
The Beast. And well, you kind of think about it. Get into the Alien films. Peggy Hill is kind of like an absurd Ellen Ripley, and let me explain why I'm saying that.
Okay.
Because if you'll take Ellen Ripley, particularly in the second movie, but in the first one, she's more of a mother figure. If you take her in the second, she still has that strong mother figure role, but she also takes on the Rambo role, the action star, at the same time, and so she's like a kind of blend of kind of your masculine and feminine traditional roles, and I think you see a lot of that in Peggy, except it's in a narcissistic, self-destructive way
I was
in
almost
King of the Hill.
going to say she'd be more of like one of the androids in a way.
How to explain?
An android that had a defect in its bilingual section.
Yes.
Los estudiantes es mis amigos.
Maybe I should give the name. I don't know. We had a teacher at our high school that is one of those instances where you would swear you're in the Matrix. Because she was Peggy Hill. She looked like her, she talked like her, and she sucked at Spanish despite having the fact that she
She was the
taught
Spanish teacher.
Spanish all the way up to Spanish 3. And then, if she ever sees this, I doubt she'll ever see this. She worked her way up and got into the city schools where the students actually cared about learning.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of the little things. Me and my wife went to separate high schools, but we both had her as the same teacher. So it was like one of our bonding moments where it was like, she was like, yeah, remember that time for our Spanish final, she had us make dioramas? Spanish 3, making dioramas and translating soap operas.
So she's a Peggy Hill. I can't.
Oh,
think
yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah. She was
Might
Peggy
be.
Hill. I'm sorry, Miss Pratt, but you can't speak Spanish.
Oh, I didn't have her at UNACA. I went to UNACA my sophomore year. I didn't have her. Hey, honey pie, what's up? Glad to have you in the chat. Spill says she had a similar instrument that was out of tune when she moved. She donated it, and she kind of missed it. But glad you kept the hand drum. You gotta have a good hand drum, especially if you live in California. It's kind of a prerequisite, especially if you live in Northern California. You gotta have a hand drum.
Okay.
You gotta be ready for impromptu drum circles at any time.
I went to one, but I've never been to one.
Haven't you? Oh, they're a lot of fun.
Seems like I might go mad because there might be a lot of people there that don't know how to keep in rhythm, and I'll just start losing my mind when I hear all the rhythms going on.
Well, the funny thing is, the main thing is everybody is the main rhythm. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on that, and then people kind of do their own things, and it kind of goes into this whole cacophony.
Yeah, that whole thing of
where
thing would probably make me want to like.
Well, you'll have one guy going, and you have another guy going boom, boom. You have these you have these building polyrhythms, and then outside of that, somewhere you have some guy that can't keep a rhythm, but
he's making his own polyrhythm because he can't actually keep it.
Yeah.
So somehow it makes a nice
And
syncopation.
it does, and it's not like and there's layers upon layers of it with all the different drums, so you don't really notice it's almost like static. The people who are out of time.
Okay.
It's almost like echo or static effects. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty trance. It kind of get you in a trance mind.
We did it. I'd want to host a drum circle, but I want the middle drum to actually be a drum set.
That'd be
And
cool.
everybody else can bring. I've
People
got
usually bring
toms
skin drums and
big
yeah.
ones. I've got a couple of drums we could bring and a couple of cajones maybe.
There you go.
Yeah,
Now we're talking.
Interesting with the drum cycle, and then of course Goff would bring an actual like bass or something and just play like a droning melody underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to bring that OK Doomer pedal, and the drum circle's going to turn into the sludgiest doom metal you've ever heard in your life.
It's going to turn into a sunset.
I have
That's
no
the
idea.
set from the band Sun.
Okay. Well, there's Full Circle. The OK Doomer pedal is based on a Sun SUN amp from back in the 70s.
That's how the band spells their name.
Okay.
too.
So there you go.
With the
Sun
that's a Sun. But
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Shut
A lot
up,
of Sun
Dustin.
reference. Because we're actually secretly Illuminati Sun worshippers. Sun worshippers.
Well, what might
the
be
Sun
Illuminati?
keeps the AI at bay because it blasts it every so often with solar radiation.
There you go.
So that's why it's good.
There you go.
And it makes the plants grow.
And it's
Will
got
we
it's got
see-
the Van Allen belt that the Sun Lord has protected the Earth with to prevent man-made electrical abominations from taking us
The
beyond.
machines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, space probes go through it and everything, but the radiation apparently is too strong for people. But
I mean, don't you think? I don't want to go on a big AI thing, but like the AI thing, the reason I'm just out is it's like, why y'all building Ultron? That's stupid. Let's build it as fast as we can. We got to build an enemy.
it's kind of like what I was talking about with the speed cameras and the smart poles and everything. It's like we're building this. Okay, even if you don't think it's going to be used for its worst ends now, and it's probably not. We're building the system around us. We're building.
Voltron. I was like, put giant cat robots
Yeah.
on.
Oh,
That would be Japan. Anybody's going to build Voltron in real life, it'll be Japan.
Well, they actually have like a.
they have the big mechs and stuff.
Do they have
Well,
one
they
conversion
have-
of it?
Yeah.
They
I don't
actually
know
have the
if
moving
Voltron.
statue of the RX-78 Gundam now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when they actually build a real Gundam, China better look out. It's going to be called the Revenge. This big robot's just going to come.
But yeah, well, like I'm saying, what's the? Why are we just standing by and building? Like, well, this particular piece of this infrastructure is going to be a good thing because it's going to catch bad guys, or this particular piece of this infrastructure is going to be a good thing because it's going to save the planet. But we, just totally ignore the fact that all these pieces fit together to basically form a open world prison around us, and in some cases or an open air prison, in some cases a closed prison, in like these smart cities and the walls and things like this. And it will be managed by an AI of sorts, or an amalgamation of AIs. And you think about Mother, the AI in the Alien film, and the artificial intelligence, the ship's computer for the Nostromo in the original Alien film. I thought it was telling that was called Mother, and you had kind of all these inverted meanings of motherhood and
That's also where the synthesizer company Moog have a synthesizer called the Mother 32.
Oh, really?
That was where the pretty sure that's where the inspiration for the name came from.
okay, that would make
I also have
sense.
one called the Grandmother. But
Well, when I bought my DVD set or Blu-ray set there, when you play the movies, it gives the option to go into like Mother mode, where it's an interactive thing where you while you're watching the movie, you pretend the ship's computer is talking to you. And I haven't tried it yet, but it seemed like it was pretty cool. But the idea of Mother being, now I've never really done any deep diving into Ridley Scott's ideas or James Cameron's ideas when they were making these films. So I'm just guessing, giving you my ideas. I could be totally mistaken here, and then the same with any of this stuff I'm going to tell you tonight. I'm giving you all of it from my perspective. Yeah, I've read it and I've looked about it and I've come up with my own ideas, but hey, they could be totally wrong. But I'm thinking like Ridley Scott. One of the main things that he's looking at right here is kind of it's really up there in the film is the nature of the masculine and feminine struggles in society. I could be mistaken, but that's what I feel like, and I feel like a lot of that. You have the male characters basically being raped and impregnated and being put in the position of a female victim, the typical victim of that crime. And meanwhile you have Ripley being the leader. She becomes the leader, and basically she's already the ship's mother. But at the beginning of the film, she's the one that kind of that lets the children play, but kind of keeps them all in line too. They're kind of like truckers or something, is what. And in that film, you see, really kind of relatable characters that you can imagine in real life. And they kind of reminded me of truckers. But Ripley's kind of the one that kind of is the glue of the crew. She mothers everybody, and while she's not overly what do you call it? She doesn't gush over them, or she's not like what we might consider. The modern version of what people might consider motherly, but she's not sweet, but she's still basically running the ship.
The real grandmaster of the Alien films was Jones.
Yes, Jones the cat.
Because in that one scene, if you watch in the director's cut where she's getting ready to go to the escape pod and she has Jones and she drops him when he's in his cage, it actually shows the scene where the xenomorph is like checking it out, but it doesn't kill the cat. And also when you look at Alien 3, the facehugger impregnates the dog to make the four-legged one. Mm-hmm. It's like, why wouldn't they have possibly done that to cats? It's
maybe it's too small.
Or maybe there's
see them.
Maybe they're masters.
Maybe something about cat physiology. Maybe in the history, the history of our gods and stuff like that involving cats and stuff.
Maybe the cats are the universal deity or the representation of the universal deity.
If you look at it, through the whole stuff with the jockeys,
Alien versus Predator too.
Back and
they find them in a pyramid. So there is an Egyptian.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that movie. Yeah. I didn't really care for it, but
I didn't care for it either. I thought it was a cool concept. I just thought it was executed poorly.
And how the jockeys, if you go look in Prometheus, they're the ones that seeded humanity to the earth. Mm-hmm. So that means with all that, so that means cats are our actual overlords.
Makes sense. I definitely follow. Well, Ripley, though, in the second movie, we got a totally different cast of characters there with the Space Marines, who are kind of your typical action movie. You think of movies like, and I guess, I don't know which one came out first. I think this one came out after Predator, but you think of something like Predator, where you've got this whole cast like...
Predator was 88.
Was it? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I was thinking I thought these were both around 87. So I don't know, but either way, they kind of have
came out boom, 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 but I'm pretty sure Alien 2 was like, what?
80.
The first one was in 79, I know, and
it's either 84 or 86.
Okay.
86.
Well, let's look. Let's see here. Let's get a Alien time.
Sounds right, actually.
You might be right.
Even though, Aliens was...
Yeah, 86 was Alien.
Okay.
Aliens.
And 93 was 30.
So Predator, I think, would have been 87.
I know Batman with Michael Keaton is 87. I know it's just my reference point. I'm pretty sure Predator.
Yeah, 87 and Predator. Hey, did you ever, speaking of the Batman, and did you think maybe a lot of the music and a lot of the imagery and styling in The Dark Knight may have come after Aliens, when they're driving that big APC character, when Ripley drives through the place and is saving, trying to rescue the Marines when they're trapped in the terraforming building. She crashes through there, and you got this really orchestral music.
That scene is like almost, there was something from one of the Batman films filmed in that same studio, so that's why it looks similar.
How about that? I had no idea about that, but this vehicle, it looks like the Batmobile kind of. It looks like a Tesla Elon Musk Cybertruck version of the Batmobile, and you've got very similar music to the Dark Knight and the newer Christian Bale generation of Batman movies, the kind of orchestral, really driving music, and I just happen to find that interesting that you mentioned that. But the 80s action movies, you kind of had that kind of those crew of that you put together. There's always like a black guy and a Mexican and some frat boy white guys and a redneck, and there's always a woman in there of some sort, or usually. You think what's his name? Bill Paxton. Yeah, Bill Paxton's character. Game over, man.
He's actually done a lot of different roles though. He's been a different character. He wasn't always the same trope.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's pretty talented at playing.
He's been the pathetic guy. He's also been the leader too. So he can actually do multiple roles.
Well, and you mentioned him and Ripley. You get into that movie. like I said, Ripley's basically fucking Rambo. In addition to being your mother, you know, saving Newt as driving her, and I think it was 3. Where was it Alien 3 where she finds out her daughter died, you know, because she's been out in space and her daughter was
Aliens.
Was it Aliens?
Yeah, after because they recovered her like
so
50 some odd years after the Nostromo.
Yeah.
Because he was in stasis.
So that makes sense. Then that's even more of her driving. She's lost her daughter and
like LV, that's why the planet's already started terraforming because it's been over 50 years since.
Yeah. And while she was gone, her daughter died, so this was really driving her to, I mean, I guess she was looking at Newt as a replacement of her daughter, so this is her, you know, the real strong mothering instinct. She's trying to use it because her daughter's no longer there, and she's got somebody to protect. Newt doesn't have a mother, so she's saving her, but she's also, if you'll notice when shit starts going to pieces, she's the one that tries to keep everybody straight, and Bill Paxton's character's breaking down, and she's, you know, kind of, you know, she's still firm with him, and she's not by any means soft on him, but she's refocuses him and, you know, controls the situation, kind of nurtures him in her own way to make himself useful to the group again.
They expanded upon it that the xenomorphs are not the first extraterrestrial species that they have encountered. If you go, we have to have the Space Marines because there's stuff that's worded in that and then expanded lore. There's like other alien species that they have encountered and fought, even though nothing was as, you know. They pretty much, that's why they're always cocky, because they never had anything that could face them like the xenomorph did, because everything else, I remember there was like these there's something that was like a big bug alien. I think that's actually kind of what they referenced.
Yeah.
There's also,
maybe they were in the Starship Troopers world universe.
There's also that they didn't, up until that point too, if you look at the Alien movies, especially Alien 2, you just have an android here and there. You know, the robot person, like here's the mechanic guy or whatever. But then if you cut to the Blade Runner universe, they're starting to crank these people. They're starting to crank them out like crazy and send hundreds of them out in outer space and all that stuff. So it's you wonder, like, did the xenomorphs directly cause them to start creating androids? Because they're like, fuck, if that's out there, we're not sending human beings out there anymore. We're sending just androids to go deal with these acid shooters.
And they being in the same universe kind of also plays into you would say a mother or parenthood kind of thing, because you're creating.
Makes you wonder if if the whole thing is a narrative on parenthood in general, because Ripley's not even really the mom. She's almost like an adoptive mom in that role, and parenthood's kind of going away on Earth because it's all going to the androids. Like even Blade Runner 2, what's his face is in love with his hologram girlfriend at home, and it actively shows him pretty much shunning interaction with real people to go home to his hologram.
Yeah.
So
and you could see that happening too in an age right now where, you know. There's if this is true, I don't know. They're saying that young men and women are not really getting together and not really dating like they used to. It's
absolutely,
it tends to be split up among it. So a lot of the higher status females that are, you know, pretty end up going with higher status older males or nobody, and then the younger males tend to be lower status because they haven't established themselves. They, you know, don't have money. They can't, you know, take you for a ride in a fancy car or go on a vacation or have a house for you to stay in. So they, because women now, younger high status women have access to more high status males at any time. Any woman now can go on Instagram and post a picture and she can have freaking, you know, I don't know.
All kinds of DMs and 0 dates. That's the narrative I'm hearing out and about.
Well, but what I'm saying is though, she can have, like, Drake message her on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? That's any woman who's beautiful can put herself up.
$10,000 from him because he's actually an Indian prince.
Yeah.
Oh, the dating scene looks bleak.
But anyway, it looks like there are not enough women out there for the young men is what it's looking like. And then also, well, it's not that, it's that they're not willing, they don't know how to get the women that are out there. They don't know how to approach the women that are out there, and it is much easier for them to order a robot that'll do whatever they want. And once they get you know, where they're realistic enough Yeah, we're Negro, but and that's another thing. A lot of guys are paying for these OnlyFans subscriptions and things like that. And as a substitute, a lot of them don't even want, they watch the porn and stuff, but they want them to message them and tell them they love them and stuff like that.
So imagine when AI gets good enough to where you can just, when like the girl on screen is literally not even real.
And does whatever you want, however you want it.
Sex scene and Demolition Man.
Yeah, and then she'll be, but then.
What's that one with, it's one of the early George Lucas films where there's a sex scene too, but
THX.
like THX, the sex feeder look like worse than
the jerk bot or something. Yeah, it's like a jerk bot.
This big machine comes down, looks like something that would cut you in half. It's so big.
Yeah.
It's a fleshlight the size of an oil drum.
It's like that that subreddit. It's like just Reddit. Don't put your dick in that. And it's all. And that reminds me of good advice for you folks. And Joe, if you're still watching, tell this one to your old man. Don't stick your finger anywhere you wouldn't put your dick. Is good advice for life there. Because if you don't want the step, don't want something to.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I put my fingers in like sandwiches and stuff though, and I wouldn't put my. Yeah, I'm not gonna like spread the man.
Well, what I mean is a hole in a pole, or a hole in an engine, for example, or where a torque converter locks into the engine.
Sure, there's some people out there putting things in engines.
Oh, there are.
There
Trust
are
me.
people that have some sort of like
Diesel files.
eroticism towards cars.
No, there's also some people who are just trying to find a bolt hole with their finger while a engine crank is turning to try to lock it up into a torque converter, and you don't want to do that.
Get the end pinched off.
Yep. So don't do that. But the Alien films, to get back to them so we
But also
have time to.
that still segues into, because of how with the art design from H.R. Giger.
Yeah.
It's all like dicks and vaginas and
Yeah, it is.
everything. So it's very like how the aliens, their heads are very phallic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are. Gorgeous.
And you definitely want to put your finger or your dick in the big mouth or the little
I
mouth.
was like, I don't know. You can.
The acid blood, though, you got to watch out for that too.
Yeah.
Have you seen the I think it's the inside of the spaceships. I want to say it's the first one. But they essentially made it out of like lunch trays and stuff and spray painted them. There's a scene where they're all running
the paneling on the walls.
The paneling on the wall is actually just lunch trays that they folded directly out, pinned on the wall, and then spray painted.
And that was the first one?
I'm pretty sure it was the first one.
I want to say like that was the reason they decided to give James Cameron so much freedom with the second one, was because how well he did helping them make the first one, because he cut the budget and made it look really good with almost no money.
I gotta tell you, that special effects on both of them were really awesome. Though I mean, I guess it's like puppets and
Considering the
animatronics.
year,
And,
84 and 79,
combination of both. Especially looking to like I mean, it released in '86. They had to start doing it in '84 probably, and you got the Queen Alien. Yeah, that thing is huge, and the best thing about it, rather than, we talk about this a lot, but the CGI, the best part about the practical effects that the CGI can never do is the practical effect. Even if it looks kind of corny, at least it looks like it's in the room. Mm-hmm. At least it's there. It's like when you put that CGI, you can tell it's not there. No matter how detailed
no matter how good it is, it's like you can still. I mean, I don't know. There might be people out there that can't really tell like the stupid high end stuff, but it's just like you can still tell.
Like, do you remember watching older cartoons like Looney Tunes would do it a lot, and then the ones that were really bad for it was Scooby Doo, Ninja Turtles. When there would be you could always tell when like a pile of crates or something was going to go or whatever, because they were the only thing on the screen that was a different color palette.
Because you could tell they just set the cells over top of the other cells.
That's exactly how all CGI looks to me. Mm-hmm. And like you take a movie like The Thing or something, and then you fast forward to The Mummy that features The Rock as the Scorpion King, and that is cartoonishly bad. As much as I like those movies, it's cartoonishly awful.
Well, you even look at the new Thing, like we were talking about the other day. Dustin and I were talking. The CGI effects on it are actually really good. The idea, the transformations are really good. It just looks fake. And
it's because Hollywood was in this like hardcore, like we're pushing CGI because they actually made practical models to a lot of the transformations in the creature.
That's what you were telling me.
It's like there's actually legitimately the one where it's walking over and it sucks into the guy and you see it start absorbing him through his head. they made that practically, but the studio was like, no, you're doing that CGI. So it was just like,
take
you
it
wouldn't
back.
even let them.
I mean, you're going for the market
think
of
it's
people
the
who
fantastic
enjoyed the
ability.
first film, the first thing, and that's one of the things they loved about it. Why would they take it out?
I take it back just a little bit. I'm going to argue both ways, but like the practical effects, let's use Jurassic Park as great ones, even down to like the way they
Jurassic
made
Park
the
uses both
yeah.
methods.
Local reference, the part of the movie where the dinosaurs go and thump and you see the water make a splash. Mate's piano strings made them strings for that.
Really?
Because the only way they could make because every time they would try to do it,
on a guitar and
yeah, like every time they would do the water, it would do this, like a wave would go from one
Yeah,
side to the other.
rather
That's not the
than
way it
doing
was. And like the director was like, that should go boing, and there should be a thing in the middle. So they made these
Ripple.
giant cables, and they put them underneath and thumped them to make the actual water do that little drip drop thing.
That's cool.
Mace has also made stuff for the Blue Man Group, big metal pipes and all kinds of shit like that.
That's cool.
So
I used to work at Mapes. 15,
still make stuff for Elton John and John
still-
Legend because there's only 3 piano string companies in the world. So if you're
17
hearing
years ago.
piano, there's a good chance it's made here in Elizabethton because everything's synthesizers. The only people still playing real pianos are the super pros. So
Yeah.
it all comes from here, Carter County.
I used to make the piano strings, and I would make small guitar strings. Coated, and the funny thing was, a lot of it's all the same. Like,
What is?
A lot of different string brands.
Oh, yeah.
We'd make different string brands, but I would
repackage
make
them.
all the same string. It'd be exactly the same. I won't say which brands it was, but they were. And a lot
No,
of-
I know they made Starling Dog, but I don't think Starling Dog's made anymore. So
no, they did make Snarled Dogs, and you had to, even back when I worked back there in 2005 and 6, that time around then, you actually had to go back into the, like kind of the archive section of the string shop to get a pack of those. They had them still back there, and I used to go back there and get them when I worked there.
Frank, I know those 3 brothers. My dad's worked there forever, or he's retired now. But
Yeah.
Frank used to bring me different strings where they were working on prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
And his big pride and joy, he had made some kind of a hex core where there was an octagon shaped thing on the middle of it or something like that. And he was really trying to get that going. But he was an interesting dude. He would always come down there and show us cool stuff. Like he had who's that guitar player that did Cliffs of Dover?
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson. He had an Eric Johnson guitar he'd bring down there and let us play and stuff. So
That's cool. No,
anyway, we make strings here.
yeah. Yep, sure do. Yeah, that was actually a really fun job. It was challenging because you would take these rolls of wire, and they were on reels, great big reels that weighed like 1,500 pounds, and you'd put them on these rollers at the end, and you would have to roll this reel out and drag it through all the different cleaning stuff and the dyes, and then the metal and then the dye, and you'd actually have to keep it moving fast enough so that the metal didn't harden and it gets stuck in place. So you'd have to go like here and take it through, attach it to a machine head that's spinning around and get it on there. Then you'd have to grab it around that and pull it around, keep it moving while this machine head is turning, and then go get it onto the reel that's rolling onto. And after it does that, it goes through all the cleaning stuff, then goes through the metal and gets coated, and then you can make a guitar. You can wrap it and make a string around it. But a lot of fun, but very
I like
challenging.
The string. I like the string conversation better, but the attack on to the thing we was doing with practical effects was I thought Terminator 2 had very good CGI. It's one of the few times I know it did both.
Yeah.
But like when like they did, it actually looks like when he walks through the bars. You know, funny how 1990 what is it 92?
Yeah.
That kind of CGI because I think it's because
They
were
limited
so,
it.
yeah, they were trying to dial it back because they want it to look real, and now they're so like willy nilly with it that it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, they didn't use it a whole lot, and the stuff like you saw a lot of like
And-
lightning and stuff like phantasm and like these different lightning effects. Even like your the Emperor in Return of the Jedi shooting the lightning. Like obviously he's not really shooting lightning, you know. But
So I was thinking of bad special effects in the end cut scene of Skeletor and He-Man on Master of the Universe cut in my mind. Like you remember Master of the
I can't
Universe?
remember. Yeah, I remember the movie. I don't
Just
remember
an
exactly what
epically
you're
horrible
talking about.
movie. They literally ran out of money, and at the end of the thing, they didn't have any money left, so to hide how bad everything looked, they just turned all the lights off, and that's why the end scene of He-Man and Skeletor fighting.
That's funny.
It's just pitch black with 2 glowing figures because they upgraded all the way to the final He-Man, and Skeletor is wearing this like shiny super Skeletor suit. They literally look so bad that they just oversaturated the effects and everything just to hide how awful it looked.
Sometimes you got to do what you can do.
And it's also funny with like how he said like CG, like how everything worked, how long it took to render all that stuff, and the effects they used for all the rendering on that hardware they had in the 80s and 90s.
Spills.
And how like even a low end computer nowadays is exponentially more powerful, and then that they can't do stuff that looks as good as it did 30 years ago.
Spill here. She says men see in 3D, women see in 2D, or vice versa, and she's not seeing the difference on the screen. She said that, or she's not just paying attention. The difference in the palettes, or whatever Tim was explaining there. Interesting. I definitely can tell. My wife, I know, can tell.
What's the? I want to know.
She's talking about the difference in. I'm pretty sure she's talking about the difference in the CGI and practical.
I don't know. I don't have a hard time telling the difference.
Even the
but I'm also a
best, I can. As soon as you go, you're like, okay, that's not real.
But have you noticed like the deep fake videos where they put somebody's face on it? Now that looks closer to real than anything where they actually like create a scene.
Porn.
Yeah.
So porn will always be of the highest quality because.
Oh, I'm not even talking about porn. I'm talking about
where they did Austin Powers and they replaced them all with Joe Rogan characters. You seen
I didn't see that one. No.
Joe Rogan's Dr. Evil and Mini-Me is Brendan Schaub, I want to say. It's really stupid.
didn't see that
the whole
one, no.
movie with it. It's so funny. Or maybe they just did parts, but it's still really funny.
Well, one of the ideas that, let me look right here real quick before we move on. Spill says maybe you know what you're looking for. It's something about the depth and the solidity of it.
I can just tell.
Just has a
trying.
presence. Like it looks like it's an actual object. Like,
Or maybe I'm a butthole and overly critical of everything I watch. That's possible too.
well, I'll tell you when the special effects, like now that we look at back and some of the special effects we see from when we were kids that we thought were really cool at the time, and they're like, well, it doesn't look realistic now, but.
A lot of it's also due to upscaling, because CGI, like I know for Jurassic Park, whenever they upped it to 4K, you can tell more that the CGI is dated
The Harry Potter's
because
bad for that.
in '93 when they were doing that, they could only upscale it. It's like it was only able to pull like something. It was under like 1080.
Yeah.
So it's like whenever you upscale it to like 5, if it's under 1080, like 5 times the resolution.
Well, I mean,
You
it's
can start to
I
tell.
don't know. Maybe Spill's onto something because I can tell you in Jurassic Park, I think the Velociraptors look convincing enough when they're chasing the kids and stuff. But the part where they're in the rafters and they're crawling across the tile ceiling, when the girl falls through, even when I was a kid and I watched it from the very first time,
Because
she
they-
falls through and she looks up for just a brief moment, and I went, "That's not her face."
Yeah.
Like it's just there was something about it I could tell
Well,
immediately
actually,
that wasn't
it
her
was
face.
her face, but they basically it was like they deep faked it.
Yeah.
They actually put her face.
Yeah,
on
but it's not the right
stunt
face.
actress.
There was just something I was like, "That's not right. That's not the correct
Yeah.
face." There was something wrong with it.
The stunt double the stunt double did in the scene, and they just actually put her face over the stunt double.
But I noticed it though, so maybe Spill's on to something with us.
Maybe.
Men noticing it. If there's any ladies out there, tell us if you suck at noticing CGI.
Well, if you take if you take a look like a movie like the original Thing or at the Mountains of Madness, or not the mountain in the Mouth of Madness, yeah, or like a Warlock or a Witchboard or Waxwork, kind of these that had like kind of these real gory like melty
Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, like
Even
this.
in the original Pumpkinhead, there are points, especially if you watch it, even if you watch the DVD like on something that upscales it, you can actually see the ropes and stuff that were controlling him.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Even at the very end, I remember at the very end of it, he goes and he grabs him and flips him up by his leg like that, and you can see the ropes pulling him up in the air, and he
That's
gets the
hilarious.
hand going. I was just like,
That's awesome.
I've not seen that
Aw.
movie since I was a kid.
Gremlins. That'd be a good practical effect one to
and also segueing from Pumpkinhead, since it had a dude, I forget the dude's name. He's the guy that plays Bishop in Aliens. He's the main protagonist in Pumpkinhead.
Oh, he is, isn't he? Yes, the android in this in
Yeah, he's
the
Bishop in Aliens.
the stabby guy.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Ripley. She has after her experience with the first one, knowing the android was basically sent up there to retrieve the xenomorph.
What was the android's name in the first one?
It started with a
I know, it's right there.
I can't remember, but he started. He was out there the whole time to basically make sure that the xenomorph made it back and the crew was expendable. And in this in the Aliens, Ripley is suspicious of Bishop the android having, just gone through this with the first one. I can't think of his name. But I think they all went by their last names on that one, so it probably would have been because it was David in Prometheus. Because they went A, B, C, D, actually, didn't they? The androids did. I'm pretty sure it did.
Ash.
Ash.
I was like,
I gotta Google it. It's gonna kill me.
Well,
Now I can't think
I
of
was
not the
stuck on
Pokemon
Aaron.
kid.
I'm like, it's not Aaron.
Yeah.
It's a similar sounding.
Well, the androids she didn't trust, so I wonder what that says as far as her character, as far as the representative of kind of this mix of masculine and feminine, being adverse to technology and not trusting it, and then it turns out to actually be a man who betrays them, or a human who betrays the crew on this one. Mm-hmm. Paul Reiser's character, I can't remember, isn't it Burke or something like that? Yeah. He's the one that's actually sent there to screw them all over to collect the xenomorph at any cost, and he's also actually supposed to kill the crew. That's part of his mission. And so this was a human who did this. And so I want to get into I think we'll see how this where my brain's going. Like I said, this is all just my thoughts, so maybe it doesn't make sense to anybody else, but I wanted to move on to the rise and fall of the sacred feminine, because I think a lot of the elements of this are represented in the Alien film, so I want to go ahead and get into that before it gets too late. A lot of you guys have heard it, I'm sure, in a lot of the New Age movement, talking about the sacred feminine, the feminine divinity, and the idea that at one point in history, or prehistory, that Earth was a peaceful utopia, basically, and females were the rulers of society, and then there was an era where basically men began ruling by force, and the females were kind of put into the role that femininity has been for most of humanity, which is basically a way for the powerful males to transfer their genetic material onto a next generation. And that was, the men were the ruling bodies for the most part. And they use physical power and size, fortresses, implements of war to dominate, and basically the strongest man who controlled the biggest army was who won. And basically that guy got all the women that he wanted, and the other stronger guys basically got all those women. So it became from a spot where there's supposedly wise women ruling a peaceful world, where to utter turmoil of war and chaos that we've seen throughout the human history that we know. And so there's some ideas in the New Age movement that we are returning to an area of the divine feminine and female rule, and that's kind of what we've been going through over the last 100 years. And that's why we've kind of had this tumult and chaos in society, which is really nothing new, but we kind of feel like it is because we see it immediately. We see it from all around the world instead of just seeing what's in our local area.
Shitty. It's all televised now.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. They've always been bad.
It's like we've always been this bad of a species. It's just you can see it on a more
Maybe.
macro scale.
Oh, I like to think that we got to a point at one point that we grew up and didn't do it, and then maybe the 15,000 year ago cataclysm stunted.
And that may have been what ended.
That's just, I like to think that. I don't have to give myself a little bit of hope, because it's like every other species you look at has like a prime example of a wolf and a prime example of what a lion should look like. You look like the modern example of the prime any kind of human. It's like you start playing the SpongeBob music, ding, 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 and just everything looks ridiculous. Like that's what we're evolving into. I think we're devolving because we're just spending all of our time making robots better, because maybe that's what the next phase of human existence is.
Well, maybe it is, and that's definitely what.
Dumb. I don't like it, but build your own Ultron if you got to, I guess.
Well, that's definitely what some of the elite are looking at doing.
Transcendence.
Well, and transhumanism is all part of this transcendent. Transhumanism is basically it's the ultimate in I don't know if you want to call it Luciferian, but or satanic or whatever you want to call it, but it basically is the worship of the physical part of the metaphysical, and the clinging to the lowest level of vibration and total control and domination of that, which is what transhumanism is. It's escaping the boundaries of the human form, but still having access to all the things that the human form has access to. They still want the sights, the sounds, the feelings, the pleasure. They still want to access all that. What's that?
Kind of an idea. I mean, probably not very original, but something I thought the other day was, what if what we're in right now, if you want to use that sort of, dead horse, I know we've talked about the Matrix. The whole culture's talked about the Matrix forever. But if this is a Matrix, we're trying to figure out what's on the other side. What if we just evolved into that giant robot critter that we're making right now? What if we already evolved into that, and we were so bored of not having emotions and feelings because we're too strong, so we created a game where we could be weak again?
Yep.
And here we are.
Let's see here. Alvin says, be right back, computer glitch. And Spill says, a lot is put in the movie. And she says, idiocracy. And Alvin gives her the amen. And she also says, too easy of a life will make you lazy and complacent. Yeah, that's right. That's how we get into these fourth turning scenarios that we've heard about, where strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men. And kind of, we go through that cycle about every 80 years.
If you're a young person out there, when you wake up tomorrow morning, friction makes you better. I want you to wake up tomorrow morning. I want you to cut your own foot off with an axe or something.
I was just thinking, drag your butt across.
Beat the shit out of your face, Jim Carrey and Liar Lie. I'm kicking my ass. Don't hurt yourself. Love yourself. But
you can drag your butt across the carpet like a dog with worms.
Yeah,
that's some friction.
That's fun though.
Well, either way, though, Tim's point remains: struggle, necessity. These guys, man. The struggle, to Tim's point. Necessity is the mother of invention, and struggle is the mother of, what would you call it? Perseverance. Struggle is the mother of achievement, because that's how you achieve things. You don't achieve good things by them being easy. It's you struggle and you find a way to overcome the struggle. And kind of going on to the transcendental or transhumanist mindset, they're looking for a way to totally eliminate that, which basically beat yourself up in front of the boss. Which made shades of Fight Club. Yeah, get the boss in there with you. That's kind of the idea, really, of the transhumanism, is to move on past the human form and have total control of the physical space. And the elite among us, they think they're going to continue this, and I wonder if this idea that if you take, this is all hypothetical. I don't know any names of any of the people who might be doing this, but if you think that there really are cabals of people in secret societies back in behind the scenes, basically pulling the strings on humanity in one way or another, and you think, well, if there is really a sacred feminine, and there's a cult of sacred femininity that basically are the descendants of the old rulers of the world, and then you've got the modern male patriarchy that is kind of the establishment of the current world. Mm-hmm. If the feminine were to seek to overthrow the current masters of the world, the masculine power, because it's all based on domination and military. Well,
it's a Queen of England.
Well, just let me keep going. But she uses military force. It's not about male and female. It's about masculine and feminine energy. So you can have a male with feminine energy just as easily as you can have a female with masculine energy. But just let me continue the thought.
I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm holding all my shit in.
Let me continue. Okay, so
you just give me too much to make fun of. Go for it.
Okay, so if in fact the idea is that we are going to return to the day of the wise feminine, the sacred feminine being in charge, which was this era, I would argue we are ending the era of the wise feminine being in charge. Everything is not as it seems.
We're definitely entering an era where we make a fun. It's open.
I believe we are ending the era, because the sacred feminine, in my view, began with the virgin birth of Jesus Christ. That was the ultimate expression of the sacred feminine. And you look at the Virgin Mary being portrayed in art all over Europe and all over the world. She's one of the most recognizable, and even she is basically an iconoclastic. She's an icon from older days of virgin birth. But this is when the world was controlled under the idea of a leader who believed in a virgin birth. And so this kind of spread the idea of, not just warfare and pure force, but you had music, you had art, culture start to influence society and spread throughout. And these became the ways that societies were organized.
Madonna.
The Madonna.
Our Madonna.
Yeah,
do you think that's like an example of?
Well, she's a copy of the version of the perversion of that.
Literally Madonna, but she rolls around on the stage talking about like a virgin and all this stuff. So she's like the definition of the corruption of the sacred.
Exactly, and I feel like that she's put out there basically to make fun of the Christian worldview, but it's not actually. I mean, that's how we perceive her, as making fun of the Christian worldview, but she's actually making a mockery of the sacred feminine and the divinity of femininity, if you will.
You think that would be in there too? Because she came out around the same time, and Sinead O'Connor came out as a bald female and basically got canceled before canceling was a thing because she told everybody to go after the Pope and ripped his picture up on some award show.
Yeah, but her she's also basically that's her feminine way of striking out against the masculine.
She had hairy armpits.
But it doesn't matter though, because what she did
her songwriter was a feminine man named Prince.
But she she did not physically try to go after the Pope. She did it with artistic. She ripped up the paper. She got in front. She used words and imagery to try to attack him rather than physically going after him.
If you say so. I don't know. I think if all that stuff, if you're going to believe one thing is a stage thing, all of it has to be on the same stage.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying that's not the case. But what I'm saying is that
the Baja Man. I'm just playing. Keep going.
Well, you go on to we start with the virgin birth, and then you get up to this was the age of Pisces, right? Mm-hmm. Sacred feminine is the Babylon mystery school religion. That's right, Alan. Yeah, and this is what we're going to get into here, because the perversion of this sacred feminine, it'll also come around as androgynous. You get to Babylon mystery school, you'll see, and this is not from the Babylon. This is a descendant, the Kabbalistic descendant of it. But you'll see like the Baphomet with the breasts and the male characteristics, and the breast. So this is kind of a combination of both of these. But the idea though is that when people think that this return to the sacred feminine is going to be the era of the virgin birth or whatever, this is we're in the age of Pisces right now. I think we've ended it. The age since Christianity started was really the beginning, and then before that we had the age of Aries, the ram, and now we're entering. Now we're talking astronomical and astrological. As this era winds down, a lot of people said that we're going to enter the age of Aquarius, and it's portrayed by these new age people as a return to the ideals.
The Aquarius symbol.
Well, it's the water bearer, and you often see Aquarius portrayed as a female.
Okay.
But Aquarius is actually the constellation. It's based on the Greek mythological character Ganymede, who was Zeus turned into an eagle in some versions, turned into Aquila, the constellation Aquila, and swooped down and brought Ganymede to
fight his nemesis, the Hulk.
No, he brought him to Mount Olympus to bring him water and be the cupbearer for the gods.
Okay.
And a lot of people also think that Aquarius is a water sign. It seems like it would be. It's an air sign.
What if there's another flood coming and God lied?
Well, no, I don't think God lied. What I think happened is, if you were going to play the ultimate ironic perversion, if you just for the ultimate ironic pleasure for these people who like to invert everything, you would attempt to destroy the world by flood.
Okay.
Because God said he never would, right? And you're being in place of God. God already destroyed the world by flood once, so you're going to attempt to do it and attempt to take the place of God, and then you can say God lied because I'm God now. It's the kind of the ultimate or inversion of it would be like the pinnacle achievement of the Satanist or Luciferian or whatever you want to call these people that are tied to objective reality. And what we get into, I want to show you a little bit of, pull up some images here from the Secret Teachings of All Ages. One moment, if you'll bear with me here. This is a picture, a representation of Ein Sof personified into the realm of physical existence.
This fella here?
Yeah. So Ein Sof.
Chronos based, didn't he? Or is he pre-Chronos?
I really don't know. This goes back to ancient Jewish mythology. I think they kind of all fill this role, but this is it's really too complicated, and we'd have to. I could read you the whole page of this book, and it would explain kind of everything. But junk. Well, the sun is his junk. His sun is the junk, or his junk is the sun. He is basically in the idea of ancient Kabbalism. The universe, or everything that is part of something called Ein Sof, A-I-N-S-O-P-H.
Okay.
And Ein Sof is the
big turtle.
Yeah, pretty much. It's basically the medium in which everything exists, and also
Black cube.
Yeah. So part of Ein Sof is this stuff, and it's also the creative force. So when
that'd be Brahma in Hindu then. Right?
So this right here, this ring is basically a representation of Ein Sof spreading throughout the universe, but him in the middle of the circle is a representation of all these vibrations that control the universe coming together to form our physical reality. And at the center of it, we have physical reality, and I'll show you another representation of it here. And if we look closer here,
you can see where Cliff bullseyed it twice at the range today. What is this? It's like a target, doesn't it?
This is a representation of the Kabbalic scheme of the four worlds, and we're looking at
that's interesting.
Basically, we have to understand each of these rings has power over the ring inside of it, right? So at the center of it is condensed vibration into mass. You remember what Bill Hicks talks about in the special, where he talks about we're all vibrations, we're all just energy vibrating at different.
Jim Carrey keeps saying that. He's ripping off Bill Hicks.
Yeah. So this is what he's talking about, though. This is an ancient Kabbalistic philosophy that basically each of these rings, the God or the Ein Sof. Ein Sof is basically the medium, and God is like something that rises out of Ein Sof, but it's also part of Ein Sof, and it's three-parted, just like the Christian God.
There's four.
Well, there are, but these are the three parts of God. These three out parts are right here.
That's very similar, actually, to the Native Americans. I think it's the Navajo, a couple other tribes around there. They have a four-colored staff that they carry to represent the four worlds. So keep going. It's very interesting. That's reminiscent of each other, ancient.
So these rings, each one on the outside is the most powerful because it has on the inside, every ring within it is controlled by it. So the weakest would be these right here in the middle. So this is God basically out here, and this is also God in here. He can be everywhere, but he's also condensed to a point, and that's where we get matter, according to the Kabbalists. So you've got out here. These are also parts of God's. This is like the pure void of space. This is like space-time, and this is like pure light. Okay, so this is all outside of our physical. This? Yeah, they can.
You sure? I'm just looking at you.
Oh, right there.
The top of the head.
Oh,
okay.
Wait a minute! I did this wrong. I've got a treat for you here. I meant to fix this so y'all could actually see our stuff a little better there. Let's see if this works. Let's check the monitor here, because that should make us small and make the picture big. There we go.
There we go.
All right, we got it now. Sorry about that, folks. I meant to show you this guy, this big here. So. Woo. There we go.
What's those letters in the middle?
This Azimuth, Briah, Yetzirah, and Asaya, and these are basically the different kinds of vibrations. So you got why I pulled this up is Aquarius falls in here in the A's. Okay, so you inside.
Azeroth from the Skyrim chant, the dragon word. Sorry.
Well, actually, you got the in here are the angels like the Metatron and Michael and Raziel and all these.
Getting like gematria or whatever.
Well, gematria is part of this.
Okay.
So in this circle right here, this is where you have. It's only 10 of them, but these are basically the forces represented. And then remember, the zodiac was only 10. back when this would have been. There were 10 symbols. Well, these would have been the forces of the zodiac. So if you look at these different rings, each of these is a vibratory level that affects. These are all metaphysical, but they actually affect the physical reality in the middle. So this is the Kabbalistic diagram for basically how matter is created. And these are all the different things that affect the creation of the matter. And one of these is would fall out here would be Aquarius. And Aquarius was, like I said, is representative of a different power. It's representative of a power of the universe. It's not a physical being. It's a story meant to portray and convey the nature of reality in a way that somebody can understand it, as you know. And once you learn the stories and you study them and meditate on them, then according to the Kabbalists, then it will all begin to make more sense to you. And the stories are just basically to help you remember it and learn the important parts of it. So as you get in here, each of these, these different, they're either they're angels, they're constellations, they're different representations of the different forces of nature and how they actually work together. And some of them are like, the nuclear, gravity, the nuclear, the small and big attractive force, electrical force, and the tides, and basically that's what all these rings are, is how they work together to form the nature of the universe. So Aquarius has a part of this, and Aquarius has a nature to it. So let's look a little bit about Aquarius, since we're supposed to be entering the age of Aquarius.
Is that why it won't quit raining?
Yeah. This is the circular zodiac of Tentira. Now we're
tantric stuff.
No, man. Tentira, and you were talking about Egypt. So this goes all the way back. This is we have our 10 zodiac signs here in basically a story, but it's representing the same thing. The forces of the universe. That's the oldest known zodiac.
The oldest known
circular zodiac.
And it's Egyptian?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Tentira. And go on to talk about Aquarius. Aquarius is called the sign of the water bearer, or the man with a jug of water on his shoulder mentioned in the New Testament. This is sometimes chosen as an angelic figure, supposedly androgynous. He's got it separate. Androgynous. So we often see, like we talked about, the water bearer portrayed as a female. Look at the statue in Johnson City.
It makes me wonder about the water they pour out in the Book of Revelation too. The different vials. Yeah. And the third vial was poured out, and thus the frogs were gay.
Somebody was talking. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking to Alex Jones, and they said while they were sitting out there talking to him, a hummingbird came around and just started hovering around him, and said Alex, just without missing a beat, was like, "It's a drone."
The drone.
He was joking, but
It'd be fun if it was, though.
Yeah, you never know. They actually do make. I mean, that may be why the
bird corpses to make drones now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That may be why the birds aren't real psyop was started to begin with, is because they really are
to get us like cumbersome to it.
Well, yeah, if we see somebody saying something stupid like birds aren't real, and I've obviously killed a chicken and a turkey and other birds before, doesn't
mean they can't nanotech cam their eyes or something, because I'm getting creeped out every time I turn my computer on, and maybe it's just the light, I don't know. Those stink bugs, I swear to heaven, will just position themselves in the room, always looking at what you're doing. And it weirds me out. It's like, why do you?
Well, they are foreign bugs. Those brown marmoted stink bugs are invasive species from China.
There's always a stink bug looking at you somewhere.
It's a drone.
Stink bug drones.
But they really do. They have mosquito drones. They have drones so small. They've got realistic looking insect and bird drones. So. As Bill says, it's funny how accurate my moon chart is. My chart is moon in Aquarius. Alvin said gives you something to aim at when you throw your spaghetti at the wall. Thank you, Alvin. That's perfect. I'm throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall tonight. Albert Pike taught through Morals and Dogma, taught Helena Blavatsky everything she needed to school Aleister Crowley, who was Barbara Bush's daddy. Yeah, they did that supposedly. Now did that Babylon working ritual out in the desert in Nevada, doing the the Trinity atom bomb tests, and that was when they did the ritual to create not Barb, but it wouldn't have been Barb, but that would have been no, because he was a World War II fighter pilot in Barb. So that didn't matter at it, but that was what I'd heard before, that there was some kind of coincidence with Barbara Bush's birth, and she does look just like Aleister Crowley. When was she born, and when was the Babylon working done? Let's look that up real quick. Barbara Bush birth. I'm getting. Well, she was born in 25, so she would have been 20 when that happened. That couldn't be right. And when was Crowley? I know Crowley was alive then.
Crowley. It's like the fancy version of the Crowley.
See if we can find the Babylon working rituals. Series of magic series. It's even on Wikipedia. The Babylon working is on Wikipedia now. Can you believe that? On the Thelema series. Babylon working was a series of magical ceremonies or rituals performed January to March 1946 by
L. Ron Hubbard.
Jack Parsons. Yep, L. Ron Hubbard, and Crowley was in it too. And his Moonchild was his idea, and they said Barbara Bush was the Moonchild. And the plot involves a magical war between a group of white magicians led by Simon If and a group of black magicians over an unborn child.
I mean, oh, come on. If they really did go through all this, let's go have sex out in the desert while they drop nukes everywhere, and they think the grand response to all this magic was George fucking Bush in the end of it, then that ritual failed miserably.
Well, let's just listen to this.
Well, maybe they didn't understand the radiation.
We fucked it up. They did the ritual.
I think they got exactly what they wanted. They went over there and bombed the shit out of old Babylon and took all the valuable artifacts and treasures and everything else out of there. They did exactly what they wanted.
I don't think the ritual worked out good if the Bushes were the end game.
Yeah, that was not their end game, but the
kid's Jeb for that.
Please clap.
Fucking in the desert while these nukes dropping everywhere to give birth to the Bushes.
Well, the
fake Texans. It's ridiculous.
Oh, well, let's read this real quick. Almost immediately after Parsons declared one of the first series of rituals was complete, he met Marjorie Cameron in his own home and regarded her as the elemental that he and Hubbard had called through the ritual. Soon Parsons began the next stage of series, an attempt to conceive a child through sex magic workings. And it says, although no child was conceived, this did not affect the result of the ritual to that point. And they called the rituals... regarded the Scarlet Woman Babylon, who's their version of the sacred feminine, and like I said, we're talking.
There's their symbol of
unicursal hexagram,
because it's the male and female pointing away from each other instead of making the Jewish star is supposed to be the balance.
Yeah. And I think that's really the harmonious state of the universe is the balance between the masculine and feminine, and that's the whole idea, is we can achieve a sort of equilibrium there, and that's at the point at which our society becomes more stable. But Judge Joe Brown makes the case that that when people talk about toxic masculinity, that actually our society is actually way over feminized, and that's because so many young men grew up without a strong father figure teaching them, basic stoicism, like know when to hold your words and know when,
know when to fold them.
Yep, always defend your family. You have to be strong to be able to do that, but you also have to be able to control yourself. You have to recognize the strength, the physical strength that you have, and the amount of damage that you could cause if you don't control that self. And part of that, these boys don't learn that growing up, and they have a mother figure who, God love all you mothers out there, but women base their logic, and not every woman, obviously, there's exceptions. But the feminine characteristic is to base your actions more on emotions than, statistics or,
It's nurture.
Yeah, there's a combination of protection, nurture, and the ability to use force if necessary against those. It all goes together to create the family unit in which society has prospered, which humanity needs to prosper. But I feel like right now, over the last 100 years, we've had kind of this idea of this return to sacred feminine, but what we're actually returning to is that scarlet woman, that Babylon mystery, the harlot.
So right now we went through the idea of the corrupting of the sacred masculine, then, which has been putting dudes through the reamer for since basically the 80s.
Well, see, and that's the idea, is that the women are being manipulated too. The feminine part of
sacred
society.
masculine's going to have to come back then, because there's always a balance.
I think there has to be a balance, but I think like I said, I think right now we're reaching the pinnacle of the powers that be trying to pervert both of these things to the point that they're no longer useful as they originally had been for humanity. And what I would get at is, you look over the 19th century or the 20th century, women for the most part before that were a kind of behind the scenes in the family. There wasn't really a lot of women in politics, in governance, and things like this.
They're twerking? I'm so sick of seeing asses shake.
That's where we end up from it. But the idea is, you start having women in the temperance movement, right? So they start trying to control and you can understand their husband gets pissed drunk, beats the shit out of them. You can see why a group of women would want to get together and say, hey, no more alcohol. But they eventually convinced people to do that, and they also women had gained the right to vote, and begin to affect society in more in this way. But you look at the result of over-mothering society, like with prohibition, what happens? And like I said, it all comes down to the natures. The masculine nature is to dominate with force. The feminine nature is to use rules and societal control measures. It kind of works together. But then we had, you had not after prohibition and a lot of other things, you had like the Great Society, and you had presidents and legislatures appealing to more of the feminine nature of humanity, to let's look out for those less fortunate, and we kind of built our society on that idea, at least in theory. That's the way people felt like that society was being built. Let me see here. Alvin says she was born when her mom was on summer vacation in Paris and England while visiting Crowley's school. Jack Parsons was Crowley's #1 apostle. Edward Bernays proving that advertising can manipulate the moral and values of society. Yeah. Spill says any bug inside will get escorted out with a glass, an envelope, or any cover for the glass. Yeah, that's the way you get them out.
Keep the spiders, though. They'll kill the other bugs.
Yeah, just sit them right outside.
If the stink bugs are invasive, they can get it.
Yeah, the stink bugs are, it's a drone. It's a drone, people.
Well, they don't live more.
It's from the CIA.
They get themselves positioned on my mic cable, stare at my computer monitor, and die. And it's like, that's a camera. I keep finding them.
What's he doing? But yeah, Edward Bernays is right about that, and that's what I get to, because I feel like as soon as the ability of the radio and the television for mass propaganda to take effect, this whole idea of let's convince the women in society to rebel against their husbands, that moved on into women's liberation, and you had women working, and now it's all culminated with the best this woman can be is she can be a corporate, she could make her way up the corporate ladder, be a boss lady, make millions of dollars, be childless and single, and go out and screw all the dudes she wants to, and that's the ultimate female empowerment. Actually, that's actually, instead of using your femininity or the side of femininity for society, it is basically tricking women into trying to be men, and using all the powers that, basically all the masculine features that men use to get ahead, rather than the femininity. So it's basically trying to have women attempt to be a substitute for men rather than embrace their own strengths. And so now you have like a perversion of femininity with modern the trans men.
Buy your own flowers.
Well, no, I mean just it's gone even further, because now you have the men have almost like figured out, they think they've figured out their way in here, and they're sneaking back into these places by dressing as women and acting as women. So it's kind of like all these traditional female spaces where your kind of last bastions of femininity are being perverted, and kind of both sexes, or both genders, I guess you would say. This would not be biological sex, but the the masculine and feminine features of society and humanity are being perverted and twisted to where they can't actually reach this equilibrium that's needed for a stable society. And so that's why I think when we go into the age of Aquarius, they're basically using all our nature against us, and they want us all to be this androgynous water bearer. The ones that of us are left are going to basically go to Mount Olympus and serve the gods, and the rest of us can stay here and power the computer systems or something. But regardless,
go eat worms.
No.
Or bugs.
okay, so I know that's a long way around to where I was going. Let's look at the story of Aquarius real quick, if I can find it, because we've gone through a lot of crap there, and this stuff is all jumbled up in my head, and I tried my best to present it in a way that makes some sort of sense. But
I think a lot of it's based in solipsism.
tell me about it.
Well, society itself, that's one of the issues with it, which is based in narcissism. Solipsism is the idea that you are the only thing that matters, and in fact, no one else is even sentient. You're just you're the number one player in the game, and nothing else matters. And it's actually the only rule that the satanic groups, Satanists, actually,
The God is you.
that's the one rule you cannot break. You cannot be a solipsist, because if you're a solipsist, you're not going to help the group out as a whole. And that's what we've become obsessed with as individuals. We're so individualistic that we don't care about the group at all. So we're a bunch of lonely individuals sitting at home streaming, pretending like we have friends because we've got 300 people watching our stream at that point in time. And dude, there was, like, for example, there was a teacher that just got fired from her job because she was spending so much time using her classroom to get TikTok follows that she lost her job. And it's like, that goes back to the episode people couldn't hear me on, was like, I kept talking about the digital recreation. We spend all of our time looking at a digital recreation of reality, and it makes us miss out on actual reality because the fake one is prettier. And that's what shaking of the asses and all that stuff is doing.
Yep.
13,000 thumbs up looks better than 5 or 6 people who are real friends.
Yeah.
But dude, one real friend is worth more than a million views on any platform, because it's just not real. And if that's not Luciferian, I don't know what is.
Exactly. And it's like you said, it's a total inversion. And we get around to, like, they're living, if we take this Kabbalistic representation of the universe, all right, humanity's already living in here, right? And there's all these forces around us on the outside, spiritual forces, things that are bigger than us, that, theoretically, like, we should be focusing on these, and this is supposed to be the least important. But what the transhumanists want us to do, they want us even to a smaller dot into the side of this, where we're not even in the physical world. We're in outside of the the metaphysical world. And we're trapped in an electronic prison within the physical world. And the physical world, a lot of people feel like is a trap anyway, like we said, with the reincarnation soul trap. Alvin says the homemaker has the ultimate career. All other careers exist for one purpose only, and that is to support the ultimate career, says C.S. Lewis. And that's a great way to put it, because this woman, this girl boss who thinks she's got society by the fucking balls, and she's the shit, and can't nobody man tell her what to do. Well, you know what? She also doesn't have family that, as she ages, is going to support and love her and take care of her as she gets into old age. She also didn't nurture
Which is also
next
the same
generation
about these big guy bosses that do that go and make all this money. It's like,
It's the same thing.
they weren't there for their family.
Yeah.
They weren't there for their kids. They gave their kids money, but they didn't give them
they were a
experience.
provider, but they weren't a protector and a teacher.
Yeah.
If it was hollow for the male, it'll be hollow for the female.
Exactly, and that is what, and I like with the women who were harmed by the drunks during Prohibition, a lot of women saw their fathers or other people's fathers or relatives be this stupid corporate boss guy, or not even corporate boss, but just like a middle management guy who, he made plenty of money, but he was never there for his family. He never was a teacher. He never was a leader. He never was a spiritual advisor. He never was the heart of his home. And they were hurt by this. And so instead of finding a partner who was kind of the antithesis of this and being, the traditional, strong, loving father and for the family, and she goes to be exactly what she hates. And that was kind of encouraged by, who was that encouraged by? It was ultimately encouraged by the patriarchy, if you think about it. You got guys like your J.P. Morgan, your big banking families. They ultimately pushed for a lot of the women's empowerment and the women entering the workforce because one of the ideas was these guys were also funding the schools. They wanted the kids into schools because they wanted the schools to teach the kids to be good workers and good citizens that fell into their corporate game plan, right? So they wanted the kids in the schools. So they wanted the women to have a reason to put the kids in school. So they gave them this thing as, and of course, after World War II, during World War II, the women were needed to take up manufacturing jobs and stuff while the men went to the front lines. And then the men came back, and it was easy that time to kind of integrate both into the workforce. And suddenly the corporate powers that be and the bankers had a whole lot of money to lend out, and they had a whole lot of manufacturing base, and now they had a whole lot of workers. They had double the workforce to be able to run this thing on. So this was great for them. But not only that, they were also keeping the children of all these families.
The children.
They were funding the schools. The Rockefellers were funding the schools. They were also funding medicine, and they were having everybody basically funneled into this way to teach them into a certain way of thinking. And a lot of this included it's all part of a bigger plan to basically separate the family and have a more, at the time, more corporate run state, or more corporate run way of life. They were using the federal government and state governments to enact it. And the same now, it's just expanded worldwide. Again, we're coming to the point where it's almost like we're coming to a singularity in so many different ways. With the masculine and feminine, with the globalist and the isolationist, with the basically all the two opposing forces are kind of any two opposing forces you can think of are kind of at an all-time high as far as societal and political and psychological structures. Wouldn't you agree?
What's an all-time high?
Basically, the
conflict in general.
Yeah, the raise of the conflict between opposition, like things like masculine and feminine, physical and metaphysical, or physical and ephemeral, as physical and spiritual, however you want to say it. Individuality and collectivism, globalism and isolation, or independent nation states. Mm-hmm. It's kind of at an all-time high, the conflict between the opposing sides of the ideologies, as far as just like the distance between coming to an agreement. Not necessarily that anything's more violent or more chaotic than ever, but it's just like it's diametrically opposed on so many levels. And maybe
it is, but it feels artificial.
Well, that's why I think it is. I think it's been driven that way, and I think a lot of it is artificial. Mm-hmm. I think we've been programmed to fall into that a lot of time, but I think ultimately we're still human beings, and that's why folks like us are doing a show like this where we're actually talking about it. And like I said, I don't know. I'm just making this shit up, but it feels real to me. It does. It's like it's not like I learned this from anybody. I'm just observing society and giving you my thoughts on it. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe you think I'm an idiot, and maybe you totally disagree. I don't know. Either way, I'd like to hear what you think. Definitely hit us up in the chat here. I'm gonna catch back up with that. But it's just it's so hard to here we go. Alvin says it's called fascism, where the division between the state and enterprise is blurred. Yeah, and that's ultimately television should be an example of how not to be. Yeah, and it was ultimately how it was. People looked at it as an example of how to be for so long. It was, especially when we first had television, and it was put in, in the 50s is when it really became something that was nationwide, and you had stuff like, Lassie and Andy Griffith that were mostly like good natured and wholesome, but even back then they were slipping in little things like Andy arresting the guy for saying the gold standard was, or saying that they were coming off the gold standard and they were gonna, they were gonna ruin the economy, and they made him into a crazy kook, and he was walking around Mayberry harassing everybody, so that when anybody saw somebody talking about the gold standard, who were they going to associate him with? Andy Griffith, and that guy that Andy, good old Andy. Good hometown sheriff, paragon of virtue that anybody can relate to and learn from. He ran this crazy guy off and told him, to get out of town, because we don't need to hear you conspiracy theorists around here bothering everybody talking about how, and then stuff like, the bootleggers and they're carrying one bullet in the gun and stuff like that. Like the lawman without a gun, kind of giving you the idea that was on the way out. But anyway, they have affected society a lot of ways with TV. You think about like
he's a hula hoop master too.
he really is.
What if it's just like a fancy hors d'oeuvre? It seems like I've seen something in high fashion with that same model on there. Like
this is the Grand Man of the Zohar.
I've seen a fashion model wearing that same outfit, and it looked so ridiculous at the time. But now looking at that, it's like that's what they were doing.
I kind of know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? It was like one of those compilation videos of like ridiculous runway. Like, what was the point? And a girl came walking out wearing that exact same, only she was, a girl and not an old man with a beard and stuff.
And see, though, there were people who knew what you were doing, and see,
she had a big glued-on beard,
like a beard, like it was.
Well, see, but this was probably her. Did she have big see-through outfit with big tits or something? Because that would be like.
No, it was the dress was like a thing that was holding here, and it held that top ring, and then it came down like an hourglass, and it held the bottom ring.
Okay.
And she had to hold it like that too. She had to hold it to make the bottom one sit in the right position, because it was one of those fashion shows of like it was supposedly everything was ridiculous. But I'm telling you, that was one of the outfits.
Let's see if we can.
I like the little Saturn hanging out down here.
Yeah.
I don't know why Saturn's so far out there. Did they not know about old Plutus?
Well, no, they didn't. Saturn was the farthest one they knew at the time. This is
Saturn.
Well, there's after Saturn you get Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. I still say Pluto or Uranus.
I have to say Uranus because I'm 12.
Look out! We're gonna send a probe to Uranus.
You can't convince me otherwise.
Send the Voyager to Uranus. Pioneer 1 to Uranus. Oh shit! Let me see if I can't read the bottom of this. I'm trying to. There we go.
I like the 69 on his chest.
Now this is by Eliphas Levi. He also he's famous for the Baphomet image, and he had I forget the book he wrote. It was one of the real famous magic books. That like go back to King of the Hill. You remember the guy Ward Ratley, the guy that's in the Coven of Artemis when they have Bobby joins the wizard guys on their
the sacred whatever it was
the dog the Caninus Spiritus, the dog blood. He I don't know. I got thinking about him, and now I don't even know what I was going to say. But he writes the books that those guys are into. Eliphas Levi, and when you see that Baphomet, that's where that comes from. But he describes the great prototypal man, the synthesis of the word formulated by the human figure, ascended slowly and emerged from the water like the sun rising. And when his eyes appeared, light was made. When the mouth manifested, there was the creation of spirits, and the word something passed into expression. So it's basically it's splitting everything up. Like we talked about, the word of God started. First there was the word, and then everything sprang from that.
Looks like he's separating right here, though. Like, here's the planets, right?
Okay.
They've separated the planets from the actual star system.
Yes.
And they're saying there's something else too.
Yes, there is, and that's saying like we're looking from up here. We're looking up through the stars, and then through the stars is kind of the center of it all. But the center of creation here is in the balls.
Standing on a giant Earth too. So.
Because he's the center of him is the physical representation. Earth is the center of this circle. Remember we showed you the other one.
What if this is a heliocentric model?
Well, it's not meant to be the body Earth. It's meant to be physical matter, physical reality, not literal Earth.
Jacked, if that's a bit.
Big old swole Earth.
Well,
I'm not a flat Earther. I'm a swole Earther. I'm a swole Earther, which is just a fancy way.
So if we look into this one again,
swole Earther.
This is the
tape, bro.
So this is another representation.
It's always expanding. It's working out and it's getting fuller.
More small. Small universe.
That's what the red
the
shift
religion of
is.
Cigarette cult.
Yeah. That's the true red shift.
Cigarette cultists unite. We are swole earthers.
That's why matter red shifts to the red side of light as it passes further away, is because the man there is working out and he's getting all pumped and he's
We need to get
flushed.
a picture
His
of that
skin's
guy.
flushed.
We need to get our own version of that dude, but make him jacked.
We could get AI to do it, I'm sure. But this, the man and the earth, they represent this center right here, which is, all these vibrations, all the metaphysical and spiritual, physical parts of the universe, and chemical. This is the chemical and physical matter right here. And even outside this would be like electrical impulses that cause chemical reactions. Yeah, so that would
Every now and then.
see that was caused by something in these D areas here, and then it manifested
I
in
call it more by Tourette,
D10. Well, Tourette's would be manifested in this area. These are the controls over the weakest amount of things. So, like all the way out here would be something like gravity, electricity,
Goes to gravity.
and then you go in here.
So we need to get this straight. Gravity's
They're
here,
close.
and Mom's spaghetti's here.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. That's it. That's it. Actually, no, you're right. Gravity's all the way out here, and Mom's spaghetti is the physical manifestation of all these forms, all these different forces vibrating to form the actual mass itself and determine how it will react to stimuli with other physical matter around it. So a long and contrived explanation for a very what's the word I'm looking for? Long and contrived explanation for a very theoretical or very unformed discussion, I guess I could say.
It's a very deep dive off the alien platform into what we just went through.
There you go. But I do think it all ties together, because I think that the Alien is part of that movie, is kind of part of these.
Well, I guess you could say, because the alien, it's very uncanny, very unknown, but it's still, at that same time, you're like, it almost has like both a male and a female quality to it.
Well, and when you get into Aliens, you have that ultimate showdown with the two queens. You have Ripley and the Alien Queen, and like you got that scene where it's really intense, and Ripley has Newt.
Full circle.
Yeah,
Ultron.
yeah. Well, even before you get that, though, she's got Newt, and she's in the room with all the eggs, and they have the Mexican stare down or Mexican showdown with Ripley and the Alien Queen, and yeah. They're talking too fast, but she has, she's got her daughter, and the Alien Queen has her babies, and Ripley's got the flamethrower, and the Alien Queen has all the xenomorphs standing all around him, and she calls them off because Ripley's got that flamethrower, and she shows, she shoots it up in there, she says, "I can kill all your babies right now." And the Queen, you can see her move, and all the other xenomorphs kind of back off, and Ripley starts backing up out of the egg room, and they're kind of respecting each other on equal footing as the queen mothers of their species. And meanwhile, Ripley, while she's this queen mother of Earth, she's also a gun-toting badass, and she's never sexy in the movie. Any of them, you see her in almost no clothing, and you never really think of her sexually. At least I never did. I didn't find her to be very attractive. She was feminine, but she still had that real masculine and butch approach to it. So you had that winning the day, and basically the showdown there was so intense. But you saw the full and complete feminine nature of like, nurture and protect your young, no matter what species it is, and then you saw those two species come together. So it's like whoever made the movie, Cameron made that one, and then Ridley Scott made the first one. But you can definitely see that they understood the nature of woman and wanted to show that in there, while also showing how a woman could still use the basically things that we see as masculine qualities, like be a warrior to protect your child. But at any rate,
You get a robot suit if you want to protect your kids.
oh, hey there, Unibuffer. He says, sad news, the godfather of poker, Doyle Brunson, passed away, 89. 10 world championships, millions of winnings, and lived a wild life. Check out his story. I know it's unrelated, but news just broke. I think I will check that out, Unibuffer.
I'm going to choose to immediately believe he's in the CIA and he's a fake character. But I'm an idiot, but that's just on the fly. I've chosen to believe a character.
Unibuffer or Doyle Brunson?
In this moment, both now. They're both. They're both not even real.
Unibluffer, I got sad news for you, man.
You ain't real, buddy. You're in the CIA. You're in the AI.
Oh, well, thank you for telling us about that, man. I appreciate you joining us tonight.
It's the new
Let's catch back up here on, because we missed a couple things. Television, no, Honey Pie's back in here, and with it giving us a laughy face, and Spill says the Dogon tribe knew the sky long before scientists. Yeah, and one thing that's interesting, when I go back in the book that I got these pictures from, that I was showing you earlier, some of these go way back thousands of years before there were lenses, and they've got depictions of more than 7 planets. Some of them go back and they've got depictions of a heliocentric world, and a lot of the people like what was his name, not Copernicus but Ptolemy gets a lot of shit because he has this thing that looks like a Earth-centric universe. But it's really not. It's really the same thing as this. It's just using Earth to represent physical reality, not an astronomical chart. I think Ptolemy, I'm pretty sure Ptolemy had a good idea about this. He was right before Copernicus anyway. But this was a philosophical diagram trying to, a lot of this, especially in old philosophy, kind of more modern philosophy becomes just like the study of why people do what they do, less than the nature of reality of itself.
Let's stop chasing down the question of consciousness and let's discuss sentence structure.
Yeah.
We need to take a picture of the dude that you had, the dude with the rings, right?
Okay.
If you still got that picture. I want to do this one. I don't like AI, so I'm going to have to drop myself, but, whatever. I want this picture, but I want him swole. And I want up here, up in the upper atmosphere, up in this darkness, I want a picture. I want the Queen Alien spinning off into the distance while Ripley's right over here, and all it says is "Get away from her, you bitch."
Oh shit! Well,
at work we have a rolly door that rolls up, and every time I hit the button and wait for it to roll up, and it beeps, and whenever it goes, I say that line. And nobody ever gets it, and I'm
Do
like,
you really emphasize it?
I was like, yeah. I get into it sometimes. I'm like, there's been one person that is like, hell yeah.
There's probably like people
Everyone
like reporting
else
to
is like,
HR. God, I think Goff's crazy. Every night he just calls the door a bitch. He screams at the door every day. And I think there's somebody invisible in there too that he's trying to protect.
well,
or just some of the people I work with don't have good taste.
I don't know. Younger people will keep track of the old movies and stuff. Maybe just don't work with a good group of people that have seen movies.
Let's see. We got the Aquarius. We're going to put in before we close out.
I know when I mentioned, I was like, have you ever seen the movie Aliens? And everyone's like, no. I'm like, how the fuck have you not seen Aliens?
That's what I was talking to my friend Lurch the other night, or last night, and he and I were talking about it. And
all of them, they love horror movies and stuff. I'm like, you haven't fucking seen Aliens.
Well, Lurch mentioned that it was an underrated movie, and I got thinking, I was like, yeah, you're right. Because, me and my friends all loved that movie, and I just assumed that everybody else did, but it's like only 80s sci-fi and horror movie nerds are kind of really hip to it. I mean, it's a cultural force and everything, but it's not as mainstream as I would think it would be based on the number of people that I know that love it.
Because its legacy has been tarnished by crap remake after crap remake.
Could be.
That really hurt it.
Yeah, I could see that. And where we grew up with when it was good. Well, the first two.
Oh,
I like Alien 3, but that was definitely a film that the CG that we were talking about. It's like if you need to learn how to start finding CG, watch Alien 3.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's like, why did they do
plus
that?
They were really trying as hard as they could to get the rated R thing, and I don't really care about language.
Is that the one where they're in the prison, or
yeah,
is that
the prison colony?
But at that point in time, they were trying so hard to get the hard R that they broke a record for F-bombs or something like that. It's like third place next to Godfather or something. It's one of the top F-bomb movies
up there.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one where she and which one is it? I can't remember if it got Ron Perlman in it, and she tosses the basketball over her shoulder. Is that 3?
Yeah.
She shaves her head.
I hated that part. Man, Ripley's already cool. Well, don't ruin her. Don't make her do it.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to be a basketball superstar. I don't know. But I did want to hit this real quick before we go, because this is one of the key points to my thought pattern that I didn't even express. So I'll tell you about the history and mythology of Aquarius, identified as Gula, the Great One, in Babylonian star catalogs, and represents the god Ea himself, commonly depicted as holding an overflowing vase. And that's where we get the word eau, like eau de toilette, and the French word eau is based on the Latin.
O is a water-based Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas.
Okay. Well, yeah, E-A-U, that comes from this, EA. It basically is representative of the 90-day period around the winter solstice. So it was the ruler of the southernmost quarter of the sun's path, the way of E, or way of O, or however you want to say it. But I thought that was pretty interesting, because the great old one representing God, it's one of the fourth. So it's like in this place, it's like one of your earth, wind, air, and fire. Like I said, in our modern zodiac, we consider it an air symbol. But why is it that it's an air symbol when he is bearing water?
Because water comes from the air.
Maybe. Well, I mean, the air does bear water.
Yeah, if you look at the symbol, it's a triangle this way,
Yeah.
and then you draw a line for the other one, and that's also the sign of the feminine, the triangle.
Good
And
point.
the male is the other triangle, which is fire.
Good point. And then to finish it up, in Greek mythology, in addition to being Ganymede's son, like we talked about earlier, or being Ganymede.
Say it should be an earth sign, because what are they back then? It's like, what were they carrying it in? Clay vessels.
But maybe it's just the clay vessel. Maybe is representative of the air holding the water that falls onto the earth. Maybe the air is the water bearer.
Phil looks like he's dancing.
Yeah, that would be Aquarius.
I'm dancing on my own water.
But Aquarius, we talked about Ganymede, the youth who was brought by Zeus to Mount Olympus to serve him water. He's also sometimes associated with Deucalion, the son of Prometheus.
Duke.
Who built a ship with his wife Pyrrha to survive an imminent flood. They sailed for 9 days before washing ashore on Mount Parnassus. Where does this sound familiar from? Prometheus. Remember the movie Prometheus, the waterfall? Did he land in his ship there after his 9 days afloat and then dump himself into the water and seed the earth? I don't know, but
Seed the earth always sounds so.
seed humanity.
Just makes me think of like some big, like old man god with a beer gut jerking off onto the ground, and then all kinds of shit growing out of his sperm.
See this.
And he's real grotesque about it. Just drunk.
Like
Cracks
this.
a can of PBR and throws it in the ocean.
Like this guy. That could be him.
Lightning bolt shoots
Aquarius.
out of his pecker of his man.
Prometheus.
What's the stick he's holding, and what's the ball on the ground?
Let's see here. Its water jar, an asterism itself, consists of Gamma, Pi, Eta, and Zeta Aquarii. It pours water in a stream of more than 20 stars, terminating with Fomalhaut, which was a summon spell on Final Fantasy. And that's...
Is he dancing on a fish?
Yeah, that's Pisces.
Oh, okay. Poor fish.
Yep. So this is Pisces coming in, and he's pouring the water over, but he's taking over. We have the procession of the zodiac, and I didn't even mention that earlier when I was talking about the different ages. But we're entering processing through the zodiac, and now we are entering into, or probably already in, the age of Aquarius, and shit's going to get real. But listen, I appreciate y'all joining us and sticking with us. My incoherent rambling thoughts. They make a lot of sense in my head, but it's kind of hard to put them into words. It's like these things are abstract thoughts that I can.
That's like all my thoughts.
Well, it's like I can, if I can imagine a picture of something, and I can see it in very great detail, but to actually explain this detail to you, is kind of outside of my ability. And the same thing happens with abstract thoughts and theories and these different ideas and philosophies that I have. And it's hard for me to share those. So I did my best, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I had a good time talking about it, and I really like talking about the movies, if nothing else. So definitely come back and join us on Wednesday night. We'll get into some news and current events. And then this past Wednesday, Tim and I, you really couldn't hear Tim, but we looked at some fun AI stuff. So we're going to be doing that more in the future. There's all kinds of new AI innovations, so we'll probably make that a regular feature of the Wednesday
We'll
show.
start streaming Fortnite too on Sunday nights. It'd be funny if we really started doing video game content because we'd suck at it so bad.
Spill says it all connects in the end like a crime scene board. Well, it does for me. I hope it did for you, or I hope you at least like saw how I was stringing everything together, because I tried. But it makes sense in my brains. All my neurons are firing, and that's what they're coming up with. So listen, we appreciate y'all again. That was Dustin that opened us up with Macrocosmic Regeneration. Go check out Decade Deceit, his his metal band there, and he's also got Aether Weaver, the Aether Weaver, the synth project that he's got with Jonathan. And then Tim is the artist known as Tim. Definitely go check out his music and look for him in a local venue near you.
Porn sounds. That kind of stuff. That was actually a lot. That's what I do live.
But Spill, Honey Pie, Joe, Unibluffer, Alvin, we appreciate all y'all. Appreciate y'all very much.
Ridiculous.
And we'll see you then, and we'll get into something good. Still working on that Agora episode, Alvin. Like I said, I'd kind of like to have some folks that are kind of involved in that, and be able to ask questions for them rather than me try to explain it all. And it's really something that I'm interested in learning about more than telling other people about. So I would like to have that together. I've got a lot of information from you, Alvin, that's very helpful, so thank you for that. God bless you and everybody that's watching us. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to my mama, if you're still out there watching. I know you watch the show sometimes. So everybody, have a good one. We'll see you on Wednesday. Sounds good, Alvin. Later.
Play us out, Ralph.